been wanting to do this class for a while. Team problem solving is a class that I had taught for several years, and it's usually a 6 to 8 hour class. This is kind of a bare minimum of the class, but I try to put the best of the benefits as to why you'd want to pursue self-directed teams and what you would get out of self-directed teams. If you're looking at a win-win from the standpoint of management and the employees, it doesn't get any better than self-directed teams. We're social beings. We do better working with a group. And we don't like being told what to do. We'd rather be told what the problem is and given the opportunity to work with others to come up with a solution. That's what self-directed teams provide. It really plays to our human nature to drive improvement. Again, this is what we want. We're social beings. And I think when you go through the presentation and look at what is presented there, you should see a lot of benefit and a lot of opportunity. The companies that are going to do well today in our ever fast-changing world are the ones that have teams where you can surface and solve problems quickly, where your employees and you spend your time building customer value and customer satisfaction and driving improvement, as opposed to just dealing with firefighting all day long. So again, there's a lot of good in this presentation, and I've seen a lot of success with companies that have implemented it. So with that, let's go to my desktop and we'll begin the presentation.
Okay, the team problem solving methodology. Again, the goal of this is to help your teams work better at capturing each other's energy, being focused, solving problems quickly, and coming to a strong consensus to where not only can they solve problems, but they can identify problems and solve them quickly, consistently. The power is not in solving the current problem, but being able to recognize and consistently solve problems to where you truly have a learning organization. Okay, I should state that for any team, the most important factor is good leadership. You have to decide to be a leader. On the left side, we have the traditional management approach, and on the right side, the leadership principles. Again, there's only one definition of a leader. They have willing followers. And if your management style is that to where you browbeat, bully, and are the type of person that if it were a battlefield would die by friendly fire, you don't have much of a chance of actually being a leader. The definition of a leader is they have willing followers. So just I will read through the principles of leadership on the right side because they are so important. This is what you have to adapt if you're going to lead a good team. Leadership is measured from the bottom up. Only the people below can say if they're willing to follow a leader. Train everyone to be a leader. We hate being told what to do. We'd rather be told what the problem is and given the opportunity to solve it ourselves. Train everyone to be a leader. People are used to managing their homes. We want control at work as we do in other aspects of our life. One of the main reasons that people feel stress at work is they feel a lack of control. They get into that learned helplessness. So we want to empower everyone to be a leader, and throughout the organization, treat everyone as a manager and a leader. Employees seen as the greatest asset. Self-direction and self-management in place. We work together. This is one of the main things that a good leader is always saying is, we work together, what can I do, how can I help? They're all about keeping focus on the goal and supporting the team. We are a team and I care about your opinion. Employees are valued as a number one asset. A leader is a coach, a mentor, and a teacher, not a boss. The word boss should never be used. Open door policy in place. We use failures to improve and grow. You have to have an environment where people feel they can fail safely and not be in trouble. And that really has to be on two levels. They have to feel safe emotionally. If things go wrong, they're not going to get chewed out over it. And they have to feel safe professionally. They're not going to get demoted or fired. Again, you want to give people parameters, but let them come up with hypotheses and pursue success. Failure is just a part of that. Managers have to be compassionate and empathetic. Again, we will not follow a jerk and everybody solves problems. We don't just rely on management or on, say, engineering or a group. The idea is true synergy, that everybody is involved. If you have 10 people on a team, that's 10 brains working. Again, if you have one person, the average brain is about 3 pounds. So if you got 10 people, that's 30 pounds of brain power focusing on a problem. That's fantastic. That's what we want. Nobody cares about how much you know until they know about how much you care. I was recently talking to a guy who had a high management position with a company, and you could tell from talking to him that he really could not care less about the people under him. He tried to flaunt how much he knew, what a great engineer he was, but of course all it did was alienate him more and aggravate people. He knew a lot, he was intelligent, but really, since he didn't care about any of his people, they didn't care about him. Again, people do not care about how much you know until they know how much you care. Why would we? People like that are, as he displayed, really have zero influence. So there's no leadership there. Okay, I talked about failure. It's very important to understand failure. Anything that we attempt in life, if it had any challenge to it at all, almost always our first attempt was going to fail. The quote there from Abraham Maslow from Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs: it seems that the necessary thing to do is not to fear failure, fear mistakes, but to plunge into it, to do the best that one can, hoping to learn enough from blunders to correct them eventually. Again, failure leads to experience. We want this. Mistakes are a part of the problem-solving process. Very few people succeed on something on the very first try. I love the quote there from Cheryl Jones with Toyota: continuous improvement comes from making mistakes and learning from them. It's funny, you take anyone who is the top expert in their field, and they are also often the person that made the most mistakes in that field. That's how we learn and grow. What most people think about success and failure, they see it as one or the other. You either win or you lose. But again, in almost any activity, it's more like what we see to the right of. Failures are on the path to successes. When someone, a friend or relative, starts dogging you for failing at something, just tell them, hey, it's part of your process. You'll get there eventually. Again, if you look at Thomas Edison, he had over 10,000 documented failures before he came up with a working incandescent light bulb. And again, his way of dealing with it with reporters was saying it was part of his process. Again, he had discovered 10,000 things that didn't work on the way to creating that light bulb. If you look at Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken, again, great chicken, I love it. When he was first trying to sell his recipe, and going around and cooking the chicken, trying to get people to pay him a percentage for using his recipe, he got 1,009 no's before he got his first yes. That's a lot of failures. Remember, when you fail, don't fail to learn a lesson. Again, that puts you a leg up on somebody else. You just got to keep moving forward. We need high agreement. When we have high agreement, we can accomplish amazing things. Teams need consensus, a common view and agreement on what the current state is, the current issues, and how to move forward. In this country, in the U.S. this morning, we had about 100 million people leave for work and drive there safely because we have high agreement on the rules of the road. Again, when we have high agreement, we can accomplish amazing things. So we've got to learn how to set our own opinions aside at time and focus on the goal, focus on the team, and be ready to squelch our idea maybe to support somebody else's. The essence of lean is engaging everyone in identifying and solving problems. This is from a lean manufacturing mindset. Lean is successful by focusing on two things: processes and people. Of those, people are the most important. Processes serve people. People don't serve processes. People will develop good and better processes if they're supported. I love Toyota's mindset that before they develop cars, they develop individuals, they develop people. We want you to be successful every time you do your job. Management's job is to support the frontline workers. And part of the way we do this is by developing good processes. Okay, right here is a picture of an A3. One of the things I'll talk about a little bit later on is keeping everyone focused and having a scoreboard in place, good communication, and an A3 is a great way to do that. There are sections of an A3. That first section, the first step is coming up with your current condition. What's that problem statement? What are we dealing with today? Getting everyone in agreement with it and understanding it. What's our current or target condition? What do we want to go to? What's that ideal state and why is it important? By having those two, we have created a gap now between where we're at and where we need to be. That creates dynamic tension. Now we want to do a root cause analysis and look at how we ended up in the situation we're in, make sure we're not addressing symptoms and we're actually getting to the root cause. We're getting the most bang for our buck. We'll use lean tools, use the 5 Whys, fishbone diagrams, Six Sigma, whatever analytic tools we need that will give us the best picture of where we're actually at. Step 4 is putting countermeasures in place. As we're moving forward, we want to anticipate roadblocks. Again, it's going to happen. We're going to have setbacks, so we want to be thinking ahead strategically and plan for them. Monitor results. If our goal is to travel 500 miles in a certain direction, then daily we want to record on a graph maybe how many miles we went in that direction. And if we go the wrong direction at some point or have setbacks, then we want that recorded too, and we need to see progress. Again, imagine this A3 is going to help populate a communication board, and that communication board works like the scoreboard for a basketball, a football, or a soccer game. It's what creates that dynamic tension and drives the behavior on the field. We cannot put effort unless we know where we're at. Then that last part, that Yucatan, that standardization, reflection, we want to learn, again, be ready to report out our success and analyze. We want to analyze our failures and our successes. Again, this just kind of restates in a different visual format what we talked about on the A3. So maybe you would want to put where it says title there, what your Hoshin is, the main goal. And management can come up with that, and people expect that. We have 3 things that we need to get from management, and that's the goal, the resources to hit the goal, and then celebrating success. So again, we need that goal, that whatever it is we're trying to achieve. If we're a restaurant, we want to have the best steaks in town. We want to be the restaurant that people go to for steaks. If it's pizza, maybe we want to be the highest delivery service. Manufacturing, we want the lowest cost, highest quality, quickest delivery time. You determine it, but make sure that your team understands it and is clearly stated. Then you have that current condition, what the target goal is, and that creates that gap. Now you're putting together that A3 and you're monitoring whatever it is that you need to do to close that gap. And again, people have to see that what they're doing makes a difference. That's part of that Hoshin. That you get all activities at all levels lined up to where they're supporting what that main goal is. And people have to see how what they do connects to that goal. We have to feel valued for our work. Okay, again, going back to that leadership, if you have someone in a leadership role, they have authority, not necessarily leadership. They have a position of authority. It needs to be balanced by compassion. If not, they're going to fall back into that state of being that maniacal egotist, that boss that doesn't care about the people that they're leading. So again, a team is not possible with that type of environment. The number one attribute that a leader must possess is a protector. A great picture of how leaders should operate is picture parenting. Mothers and fathers don't get rid of their children because they had a bad quarter. Again, there has to be a sense of loyalty and trust that goes both ways. The number one thing a leader does is protect their people. Again, I think to that scene in the movie The 300 where King Leonidas, the brave 300 Spartans fighting the Persians, is talking to King Xerxes of the Persians. And the king of the Persians, King Xerxes, says, I crave victory so much that there's not one of my people I would not kill to get it. And King Leonidas goes, and there's not one of my men I would not die for. Again, there's the difference between a leader and a boss. compassion versus no compassion. Compassion is just love in action, and it's a sign of maturity. Again, if you're going to lead people, you can't have the immaturity of a adolescent, a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. You take a toddler and it's all about them. They're not capable of being mature. We go through 3 levels of maturity in our lives. All of us are immature. We have to be cared for. We die as infants. If you're listening to this, it means you were cared for. Then we become independent. We're able to take care of ourselves. This is denoted by our ability to pay for our own Netflix account. Once you hit that, you are independent. Not necessarily mature, but you can at least take care of yourself. That 3rd level is where you are truly mature. You can picture the needs of others. You are empathetic. You have more of a social consciousness. You look out for the needs of others. And now you are interdependent. You can work well with others in a group. This is how you be part of a team. Again, we start independent, we start dependent, become independent, and the last leg of true maturity is that interdependence. You can measure maturity. A person is mature to their ability to put the needs of others above their own. When you can do this, when you can think of your team and supporting the team to hitting the goal, then you have something truly powerful. If you have 5 or 6 people or 10 people who think that way, that put the team and the goal first, that truly look out for each other, this is how amazing things happen. When you don't have that, you have to watch out for your back. You spend time protecting yourself. When you're with a group that you know is looking out for you and you can look out for them, then you have true synergy. You have something that's truly amazing. That is the power of teams. Okay, from a team standpoint, here's probably one of the main reasons why you want teams. When you look at problems in any organization, no matter the size, bigger an organization, all these are just exacerbated to where, again, they're on a higher level. But you've all heard of the iceberg principle. Only a small percentage of the iceberg is sticking out of the water. Let's say that represents a big problem. This is a giant problem, a huge dragon we got to slay. We've got machinery down or a quality crisis where we've got to do a big callback of motorcycles or cars or whatever. It's a big problem. There's a 10x principle at play here. So you look down through that iceberg. For every one big problem you probably have 10 smaller regular sized problems. For the 10 regular sized problems, you have 100 little problems. For those 100 little problems, you have 1,000 issues. The goal is, by using teams and empowering people and treating them all as leaders, for them to identify problems when they're small. We want to kill baby dragons. We want to find their eggs and smash them. We don't want them to grow into huge problems. So again, we want people in areas capturing issues and dealing with them. The whole idea of self-directed teams is, I say we have a big organization. It could be a construction site. It can be a manufacturing facility. But let's say I'll use back when I was with a large lighting facility where we had 500 employees, 24-hour operation. It was the world's largest fluorescent light factory. We had 18 self-directed work teams. And the reason we did that is by creating teams, they could each take responsibility and ownership for their area, their department, their processes, and their people. So they had the freedom and the knowledge and the training to flesh out these issues. Again, almost every large problem was an issue that went unrecognized and unchecked. Remember, the goal of all this is to identify problems, come up with solutions quickly. When we can do this, then we can start focusing on customer satisfaction and driving improvement. Makes life a whole lot more fun. You may have heard of the pressure cooker. The pressure cooker mindset is take someone, say, who has high blood pressure or poor health, and they just get to that point where the doctor browbeats them and everyone else, and maybe they're overweight, and they decide, okay, I'm going to diet and lose weight. And they get to that point, and as soon as the pressure's off, they're feeling better, they yo-yo back to their old habits, and it just kind of goes back and forth like that. That's from stress. We don't want that. What we want is dynamic tension that we create. Tension is good. It's self-enforced. A stress is usually from an outside, hence the term stress response, fight or flight. So there's actually a formula you can use to create dynamic tension and drive change. So it is that H times V times F has to be greater than R. So H equals the hatred of the current condition. So everyone has to know what that current condition is and why it's bad. We have to have a vision of the ideal state. We have to have the courage to take the first steps to close that gap. So again, we've got to understand why it's so important to go after that goal. Then that all has to be greater than the resistance to change that exists within an organization. And almost everything in life, it's either moving forward or backwards. Everything has a shelf life. We're either driving improvement by purpose or we're falling backward just by the default setting of life. We want to avoid stress and use tension and move forward. And the way to do that is always have that goal, always have a purpose, something you're moving forward to. Okay, what you're looking at in front of you is a Necker cube. If you look at the place right there where I've got my cursor, that point right there, and you just kind of focus your attention on it, after a while you'll notice that that cube is going to change its angle on you. It'll flip back and forth and you don't have really any control over it. It just happens. And the reason I show this when working with teams is to give people a chance to be patient with one another. Here's one example where your brain can't really lock something down. It'll keep just changing and it cannot decide what is the actual pitch of the cube. Okay, people have personalities, different perspectives, different views. We have to be very patient with each other. We have to view the team as what's most important in achieving the goal. That means you might have a solution that you think is a correct solution for a problem. You're in a team meeting talking about the project. You throw out your solution and it gets shot down. Don't get upset. Let it go. Often someone else will come up with not necessarily a better solution, but a solution you can tweak and you can live with. What I counsel people on is throw your, picture like fishing. Throw out your idea. If it gets shot down, let it go. Don't argue. Throw it out there again, though, in a few weeks, in a few months. It's amazing to me how many times that second or third time someone suggests something, people bite and they go with it. If not, look at someone else's solution. Is there a way to tweak it to where it will work? It is more important that the team and everyone feels like they have say, value, and control rather than someone bullying and pushing to get their own way. Protect the team. Here's another visual example of that. What you're looking at looks like a frog. But with time, looking at it from different angles, the perspective changes to that of a horse. Again, we see things differently. Again, perspective changes. So we have to be very patient with each other. Remember that maturity level. Again, the views, the values, the opinions of others matter. That person matters more than your opinion does. Your opinion, I should say, matters as much as everyone else's. Don't force it on someone. Protect the team. Okay, when focusing a team, make sure they're make sure you have a very good problem statement. Again, you'll hear that if you have a good problem statement, that acts as your lens, your magnifying glass that focuses your team. So it goes a long way towards its completion just by having a well-formulated problem statement. So here's some good ones. A problem clearly stated is a problem half solved. A problem statement is short, focus on the current situation and gap, measurable and factual, not opinion, descriptive of the desired situation, clear and understandable. A problem statement should not contain a cause and a solution. Again, it is just a problem statement. So here's some examples. I spend 1 day per week retyping data from the mainframe onto a spreadsheet. This should be less than 2 hours per week. Excellent problem statement. B, over 40% of customers' bills contains errors. This should be no more than 2%. So again, here's a problem, what we want to go to. So the current state, the ideal state, So the question is, how do we get there? It's great. C, only 20% of vacation requests are submitted at the beginning of the year. This should be at least 50%. Again, these state the problem very concisely, very clearly. It's what we want. Another formula or acronym you can use to focus your teams is something called SMART. So when you're stating your problem, it should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. These formulas are incredibly powerful, as again, it takes something that's kind of ambiguous out there and puts it down in a simple way. And you can morph these as you move forward. As you gain clarity and more understanding of the problem, then you can change the statement. But, again, the same rules apply. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. We want to set our teams up for wins. And something I'll also throw out there is we want early wins and lots of wins. We want to get our team addicted to winning. All this plays out to our human nature. We like working together as a team. Again, if you don't have formal teams, you have informal ones. We call them cliques. And we like working together to solve problems. Set your teams up for success by chunking your problems down. Again, if you have a goal of running a 26-mile marathon, then each mile marker you should celebrate. Have milestones like crossing that 10-mile line and halfway through the marathon. We want lots of successes that people get addicted to moving forward. So those formulas are important. Root cause analysis is also very important for your teams to understand. So here's a fishbone diagram, or it's also called an Ishikawa chart, cause and effects diagram. It is one of my favorite root cause analysis tools. This and the 5 whys are probably the tools that I use the most. And I've taught a lot of classes where people can use these, and it's just a brainstorming tool. So this is something you would literally do on a napkin. There are different ways that you can go about a fishbone diagram, but one of the most easy ways is the layout that I have right here. So you're looking at it from the mindset of man, method, machine, material, processes, people, policies, procedures, plants. Each one of these could be turned into a branch. And then you start listing, as twigs, all the things in your brainstorming mindset. Do this with a group of people in a meeting and have them just start throwing out there, okay, we had this problem. Let's say right now we're having a lot of defects with our Acme blank product. So when it connects to people, what are all the issues that we see? So when it comes to people, it might be new hires, lack of standardization, lack of training, lack of caring, attitude, sick people, people that aren't from that area. Maybe in procedures and policies, again, we might have lack of teams, no procedures in place, lack of understanding of quality control. Maybe with processes, there are no standards. There's no written standard instructions. People are relying on job knowledge, which again would go here as possible. Job shadowing, again, tribal knowledge as opposed to standard work. This is just free-flowing brainstorming. So again, keep it again as a living document and add to it. And usually pretty quickly, you'll come up with some things you can pursue. Again, it is just a brainstorming tool. Root cause analysis is very important because, again, we want to find what we need to give the attention to, not treating symptoms. Be sure everyone agrees on the effect or the problem statement before beginning. Be to the point, again, concise. For each node, think of what could be its causes. Add them to the tree, again, the node or the branches. Pursue each line of causality back to its root cause. Consider crafting relatively empty branches onto others. Consider splitting up overcrowded branches. Again, you could do other trees as connected to it. Again, you're always looking to simplify. Once it starts getting too complicated, then branch it down into other trees and start looking at cause and effects again. Consider which root cause are most likely to merit further investigation. Again, I state this is a brainstorming tool, so it's a way of focusing your thoughts on these branches. The 5 whys is another tool that I mentioned that is very common for root cause analysis. And it, like the fishbone diagram, is something that is a napkin tool. It's something you can do immediately and work with others on. But I see this tool as often misused. So you want to, again, involve others and make sure you did hit that root cause. There's no magic to the idea of 5 whys, but you're asking why until you hit that root cause. So let's look at an example. One example is there was a problem with the Jefferson Memorial where they were having to do lots of cleanings on it because it had a lot of bird droppings. So the first why did it need to be washed so often? Answer, bird droppings need to be cleaned. Second why are there so many bird droppings? Well, there are a lot of birds inside the memorial. Third why are there so many birds? Because there are a large food supply of spiders, fat juicy spiders that the birds like to eat inside the memorial. So 4, why are there so many spiders? Well, the spiders are there to feast on the midges. There's a lot of midges. Okay, so why are there so many midges? The lights illuminating the memorial attract the midges at dusk, which is when the midges mate. So 6 why are the lights turned on at dusk when the memorial is still visible? Answer, just because. There's no real reason for it. So what they did was they delayed turning on the lights till an hour after dark. The result was a 90% reduction in midges, less spiders, birds droppings, and fewer washings. Great example of the 5 whys. And you can go online and Google 5 whys and find lots of others. And this is a tool that I would say as you do it, like with a fishbone, you will get better at it. Your confidence will go up the more often you do these things. And like I said, I've used these tools for years, and one of the things I've always enjoyed doing is involving others. If I am in a position where I do one on my own, then I let others in different teams in different areas look at it. And more often than not, I get feedback that gives me something that I missed, or it verifies that I did capture correctly. So involve others. Again, the whole idea of this is teams. Again, not just one brain, but several brains working on it. How fast can we recognize problems and develop solutions? That's what all this is about. Where are you now? Where do you want to be next? What obstacles are preventing you from getting there? We want a learning organization where people are truly confident in their ability to move forward. Remember, the ability of your company to be competitive and survive lies not so much in the solutions themselves, but in the capability of the people in your organization to understand a situation and develop solutions. And you don't have to be perfect, just ahead of your competitors in aspects of your product and service. Trained people plus controlled processes equal solutions. Again, we want a dynamic learning organization that thrives on problem solving. So we want that confidence in our team and our ability to move forward. Team member development, invest in your teams. The teams that I mentioned where we had the 18 self-directed work teams at that lighting factory, we put every one of the team members through over 40 hours of lean training. And we did this over a period of time, but we more than got our money back through creating powerful teams. That factory was started in 1967 and is still in operation today. So competing on a global level, that's pretty amazing. In operation as factory for over 50 years. That's pretty unheard of. So we're looking at improving job skills, teaching teaching information and giving tools like you're looking at today with this presentation. We want process improvement. Again, everything is either moving forward or backward. Everyone in a leadership role or a position of authority, lead mechanics, supervisors, need to see themselves as coaches. Again, their goal is to support the teams. The perfect view of a self-directed team would be looking at a basketball team or a football team. Okay, if we pick that basketball team, there are support staff that are coaches and trainers, But on the court, the team has total freedom to follow the rules, make the shots, do what they need to do. Again, the purpose of the trainers and the coaches is to help them win games. So provide the goal, the resources, and celebrate those successes. We would think it quite silly if we saw a basketball team being micromanaged, where the players had to stop and ask permission or fell out of form before passing the ball or taking a shot. It'd be ridiculous. Yet I've seen many work environments that follow that same micromanaging mindset. It does not work. Again, we have to be very clear on our values. Behaviors and leadership are what's important. Okay, some guidelines for brainstorming to help your teams to identify problems when there's a Kaizen system in place and you want them to drive improvement. Ask them these questions regularly. Put these up on posters and places. What frustrated me today? What took too long? What was the cause of any complaints? What was misunderstood? What cost too much? What was wasted? What was too complicated? What was just plain silly? What job took too many people? What job involved too many actions? Again, the idea is that with time, they're continually improving their job. I mentioned before that this plays to our human nature. When people have the opportunity to improve what they do and how they do it, they will usually take advantage of that. Why wouldn't we? Our favorite radio station is that WIFM, What's in It for Me. I once heard a older employee at that same lighting factory talk to a new hire, and he was telling him, man, you guys that are hired now have it so lucky compared to how it used to be. In the old days, if I came up with a problem and a solution, no one would listen to me. And now, really, you can drive any improvement you want. If it makes sense financially or it's something that you can just do and the team's okay with, you can do it. Right now, the work environment is better than it was 6 months ago, and it'll probably be better than it is 6 months from now. That gives you a bright future. That's pretty amazing. 8 typical pitfalls for leading change with teams. Poor leadership. I think I've talked a lot about that. Again, if you're going to be the micromanager, the boss, the traditional manager that browbeats and micromanages, you're not going to have successful teams. It just will not work. Lack of effective support for management. Again, management has to provide the goal, the resources, and celebrate success. So that unclear vision isn't going to work. Remember, again, you got to be very clear with what the goal is and why it's important. Insufficient communication, we'll talk more about that here in a moment. Lack of team structure, lack of short team wins. Again, we want to get the team addicted to winning, and we need to celebrate successes. People have to feel valued. When I'm teaching classes on this, I'll often ask people, raise your hand if you ever feel like you have been overappreciated at work. I have never had a single hand go up. We have to constantly show people we value their contribution. We value them. Sustaining excellence and continuous improvement. Top management must lead by example. Again, the main things that management must say are, what can I do? How can I help? They must be there helping them succeed, showing they care. To look at the day-to-day, hour-by-hour problems and challenges. Get out of the office and onto the floor and be there helping them with their solutions. Again, this is going to the Gemba, letting people know that you are empathetic to what problems they're facing and that you recognize they're helping the company to hit their goals, so your job is to help them to be successful. Give people not the answers but the time, follow up, and support to solve the problems. Again, that's part of that resources. Again, provide the goal, provide the resources. If you expect people to change a light bulb on a 10-foot ceiling, be ready to supply a ladder. Help them with whatever resources they need and show that you value their help. The result is a learning organization. Again, it comes down to people and processes. You're creating something incredible. Okay, I mentioned that communication is so important. You want to create those scoreboards that are out there in every team area close to where the work is done. Show those key performance indicators and what's important for the team. On your team boards, your communication boards, divide them up into 3 sections: people, performance, and projects continuous improvement. People show pictures of the team members. You can have anything relating to, say, safety, skills metrics, RACI, things along this line. Performance, that's like on that football scoreboard again, showing where we're at with the quarter, the time element, the points, we have to be able to see that what we're doing is being successful. We have to know what the goal is and how our effort contributes to that goal. Then again, everything has a shelf life, so if you don't have projects driving you forward, you are by default going backwards. So good communication boards are so important. So with that, thank you for your time. Hopefully this was valuable. When I teach the problem solving class, it's about a 6 to 8 hour class. So I gave you the bare bones. I spent a lot of extra time actually working on identifying problems, putting projects in place, and maybe a little bit more on different tools. But I have videos that cover most of that information. So use this video to show to your teams to help get the dialogue going. Again, if you don't have teams in place, you have informal teams, we call these cliques. Reach out to me via my websites, via LinkedIn, via the comment section. I'm always glad to help. I see my purpose in business is to help others to be successful. There's a lot of joy that comes from working with others as a team. If you want to truly be happy, find service to others. And when you can go to work and work for 8 hours in a team mindset, helping each other, that's where you're working in an environment rich in serotonin, oxytocin, low cortisol. You can go home feeling energized and happy. You don't beat the kids, the dog, and open the bottle of alcohol. So it creates for a much better, healthy mindset. And again, you're creating that learning organization that your competitors should fear because you're going to be the ones getting things done. Thank you. Until next time, Brian McWhorter, Black Belt Lean. Thank you.